We'll begin by putting a stocking guard on top of the sock. That just protects the sock and makes it easier for the cast to be removed later. We need to also form a toe cap over the toes, and the reason for doing that is to protect the toes while the casting material is going on, and it also reinforces the end of the boot. Later on we're going to have to be making some cuts through the casting material in order to remove the foot, so I'm going to place a cutting guard on top of the foot, and that will just protect the foot while we cut the casting material off. That's been coated in Vaseline, and that will allow it to be removed more easily from the casting material. So I'll just use some Scotch tape to hold that cutting guard in place. Now we can form the toe guard at the end of the toes. We're using a thermoplastic material which becomes soft when it's been in hot water, so we're just using some water that's recently boiled. Now the size of this cutting guard, this particular one is about 11 centimetres by 14 centimetres, but you might need to have to adjust that depending on the size of the foot. So having roughly formed it, I'm now going to remove any sharp edges. To make the boot more comfortable, we'll put it back on. This is a rather ugly one. Now what you can do actually is, while it's soft, it can be trimmed with a pair of scissors, just to neaten it up and also just to reduce the chance of any edges making the boot uncomfortable. Okay, so we're ready to put on the casting material now. In order to do that, you need to make sure that you've got some gloves on, just because it can be quite irritating to the skin. While the casting material sets, it becomes warm, so you might need to warn your subject that that will happen. Not uncomfortably warm. Now the instructions of this material say that it can be soaked in water first, and that speeds up the setting of it. But we're not going to do that. We're going to add some water later on. That'll give us a bit more time to do our wrapping. Now while this material is being wrapped on, I'm going to ask our subject to keep his or her foot at 90 degrees. That's fairly hard to do, fairly uncomfortable sort of position. We can take the pressure off the subject later on. Now our aim here in wrapping this material is to provide the complete coverage of the foot, but more particularly to provide thickness and therefore strength in the parts of the boot that are going to require it. So that's down the sides here in particular, and underneath. Instructions for this material say that you should stretch it as you're wrapping, stretch it by about 10% of its length. Just trying to make sure that we cover the whole of the foot, coming to the end of the first roll here. So we're going to use a second roll. Again, it depends on the size of the foot. It may be that you need 1.5 to 2 rolls of this material. I'm just going to overlap where those two rolls have joined. And just checking that we've got complete coverage here. There's an advantage in not having too much material on the top here, since that's where we're going to be making our cuts. It can be a little difficult to avoid sometimes. Okay, I'm just making sure that all the loose ends are pulled down snugly at the end. Okay, we've come to the end. Feel this starting to get a bit warm here. To speed up the process of the setting of the material, we can add some water in the form of some motion, and it's really just being used because of its water content. It makes it easy to rub in. There are various wrapping methods that can be used in order to make a boot like this, and you might want to check the boots that have been made to see different samples. They've all got advantages and disadvantages. Now I'm just going to support the subject's foot now so he can relax, and we'll just again make sure that those toes are straight and the ankles at 90 degrees. This will take about 10 minutes to set.